group and grant program. The legislation would impose a 20% business and occupation surcharge on income from service and other activities of selected businesses. Categories of businesses subject to the surcharge include, but aren't limited to, architecture, engineering, legal, insurance, financial services, medical services, software publishing, scientific research, electronic shopping, and telecommunications. The bill would also levy a 33.33% B&O tax surcharge on the income from service and other activities of advanced computing companies with revenue of over $25 billion but less than $100 billion. Additionally, for advanced computing businesses with revenue of over $100 billion, the B&O tax surcharge would be 66.66%. For our look back at coverage of this bill, we highlight an April 22nd public hearing from the House Appropriations Committee. Dr. John Mosby, president of Highline College, testified in support of the bill and the Washington College Grant Program.
The Washington College Grant will ensure every qualified Washingtonian can achieve their dream of a college education, regardless of their income. Students also will be less likely to take on oppressive student loans that will weigh them down in the future. The Washington College Grant will make a huge change in the trajectory of our students' lives and make our economy stronger.
Patrick Connor from the NFIB told the committee this bill could lead to higher costs for medical services and housing.
In fact, the way this bill is structured, for some strange reason, you would see medical costs increase as the tax is applied to small medical practices, but not hospitals, driving up medical costs where health insurance and health care costs are already too high for too many working families and small businesses unable to offer insurance to their employees. Moreover, it increases the cost of housing at a time when homelessness is rampant, and this legislature is looking at spending tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars on additional assistance for housing programs.
Jay Manning from the Eastern Washington University Board of Trustees told the committee this bill represents an investment.
It's a hard thing to do. You hear compelling testimony about not us, we shouldn't have to pay, tax somebody else, this is regressive, and it's compelling. And I'm here to tell you, as an owner of a law firm that will pay the 20% surcharge, that we are the right people to pay this tax. We should pay. It's an investment in the state of Washington. We can afford it. We should pay this tax. If we're going to do a statewide revamp of our regressive tax system, I'd love to be part of it.
Roman Daniels Brown, representing Polyclinic, indicated the negative financial impact Substitute House Bill 2158 would have on the organization.
In the typical year, the Polyclinic has a profit of about $3 million currently. With this tax, a 20% tax on gross revenues, that ends up being about a 33% cut to their bottom line profit in a given year. It would be about $1 million. That's a substantial hit for a business like the Polyclinic. What do they do with those bottom line margins? They increase and expand access in their communities. They pay for technological advances, and they serve Medicaid and Medicare patients. This bill goes in the wrong direction in serving those items that members of the community are looking for.
The B&O tax bill ended up passing its final hurdle in the Senate on the last day of the session.
Having received constitutional majority in gross second substitute, House Bill 2158 is declared passed. The title of the bill will be the title of the act.
If there's no objection, the House will concur in the Senate amendment to second substitute House Bill 1087. Here are no objections, so ordered.
During the 2019 legislative session, Washington became the first state in the nation to approve its own long-term care program. The long-term care legislation approved was Second Substitute House Bill 1087. The bill establishes the Long-Term Services and Supports Trust Program. Together, the Health Care Authority, Department of Social and Health Services, Employment Security Department, and a newly established Long-Term Services and Supports Commission would administer the program. This program would provide up to $36,500 in lifetime benefits for eligible beneficiaries that could be applied to the cost of their long-term care. Funding for the recipients of the trust program would begin January 1st of 2022 in the form of a 0.58% deduction from the paychecks of employees in Washington working at least 10% of full time. 27th District Democratic Representative Lori Jenkins sponsored the bill, calling it an achievement unique to the Evergreen State.
And if I could just for a moment say that how very proud I am that Washington will become the first state in the nation to provide long-term care insurance for every worker in the state, benefiting millions and millions and millions of Washingtonians over the years, and making sure that we no longer require people to spend themselves into poverty before they can get long-term care. I am so proud, so very proud, to stand and do this for my mother-in-law, for so many people's parents, brothers, sisters, grandparents. Obviously, I'm very emotional about it. It's an incredible work and labor of love by a stakeholder group. And this is something that I feel like every member of this floor in this legislature will be able to take great pride in.
31st District Republican Representative Drew Stokesbury rose in opposition to the bill, expressing concerns about the future of the legislation.
Won't rehash all of our reasons. We covered this fairly well when we debated it originally a few months ago. But essentially, we view this as an unsustainable tax on working Washingtonians. We're also concerned that this is unsustainable. While the benefit is slated to increase at a rate of 3% a year, that assumes that long-term care costs are going to continue to rise at the same rate as the rest of consumer goods. But as we've seen with health care over the past several decades, that's probably not going to be the case. Health care has risen far faster than other consumer goods, and I don't see why we think that would be any different for long-term care services, especially when we all recognize that there is going to be a huge increase in demand for those services. So at some point, we're going to find ourselves back here needing to increase that benefit because the $36,000 pegged to inflation, pegged to 3% a year, isn't going to pay for very much of a benefit.
Open the roll call machine.
Following the brief floor debate, Senate members voted on the bill.
The clerk, take the record, please.
Mr. Speaker, there are 55 yeas, 41 nays, 2 excused.
Having received the constitutional majority, Second Substitute House Bill 1087 as amended by the Senate is declared passed.
The long-term care legislation takes effect 90 days after the end of this session, with the first paycheck deduction still a few years away.
Secretary LaReed.
Enacting to protecting youth from tobacco products and
Last
vapor
line.
products. Persons or circumstances is not affected.
Legislation passed during the 2019 session not only added taxes for vapor products, but altered the age in which both vape and tobacco products will be legally used in the near future in the Evergreen State. Engrossed House Bill 1074, passed during this session and already signed into law, prohibits the sale of cigarettes, tobacco, and vapor products to persons under the age of 21. Retailers selling tobacco and vape products are required to update signs to indicate the change in the state legal age for tobacco and vape consumption. Under the provisions set forth in this bill, tobacco and vape products cannot be sold in a vending machine except in an age-controlled environment for persons 21 and over. The legislation comes at the request of the Office of the Attorney General and Department of Health. The bill also permits the Office of the Governor to seek government-to-government consultations with federally recognized Indian tribes related to raising the minimum age of sale in compact for cigarette tax contracts. A report on the consultations is due to the legislature by December 1st of 2020. We look back at our coverage of engrossed House Bill 1074 with a March 27th Senate floor session, which was 9 days before the governor would sign the bill into law. We begin with 48th District Democratic Senator Patty Kuderer, who sponsored the Senate companion to the proposed legislation as she shared a personal experience related to smoking.
If you have ever watched someone who is struggling to breathe, I can tell you that I will never forget the sound that he made or the look in his eyes. And if you could see that too, Mr. President, you would know you would never want anyone to suffer from a smoking-related illness. We also know that through medical science, that if we can get people to the age of 21 without smoking, the odds of them ever picking up that habit dramatically reduce.
18th District Republican Senator Ann Rivers rose in support of the bill, citing concerns about certain smoke shops.
We just had a smoke shop open up at my exit, Mr. President, less than a mile from the high school where La Center students go to learn. And so for me, I'm voting yes with the hope that our tribes will partner with us and make the public health decision that They don't want to profit off of young people becoming addicted to tobacco. So I'm a yes with trepidation, but I think in memory of my eldest sister, my father, and my mother, I'm going to be a yes today.
Federal Way Republican Senator Phil Fortunato rose in opposition to the bill, expressing freedom concerns.
My problem is either you're an adult at 18 or you're not. This is a personal freedom issue.
The big question with this legislation is when the law will officially change. The legislation changing Washington's legal age of vape and tobacco usage goes into effect January 1st of 2020. Another piece of legislation that represents sweeping changes for Washingtonians is tax changes on the sale of real estate. And gross substitute House Bill 5998 passed during the 2019 session. The bill modifies the state real estate excise tax rate, or REIT, a tax on the sale of real estate in the Evergreen State. The current REIT is a flat 1.28%, but the bill proposes REIT rates of 1.1% on a selling price that is equal to or less than $500,000, 1.28% on the part of a selling price over $500,000 but under $1.5 million, 2.75% on the part of a selling price over $1.5 million but under $3 million, and 3% on the part of a selling price over $3 million. With the changes to the REIT rate, the question becomes, where will this money go? 79.4% of REIT revenue would go to the general fund, 1.7% to the Public Works Assistant account, and that number in June of 2023 becomes 5.2%. 1.4% goes to the City County Assistance account, and remaining funds go into the Education Legacy Trust account. We look back at our coverage of this bill with a Senate floor session from April 25th. 34th District Democratic Senator Joe Wynn sponsored the bill.
Again, we've spent an extraordinary amount of time discussing the need to lower taxes for working class families. And here's our opportunity to do it. We can establish a graduated REIT that will lower taxes for over 80% of Washingtonians, while 18% would actually stay the same. So that means that 98% of people would get either a decrease or see no change in their REIT.
Centralia Republican Senator John Braun rose in opposition to the bill, saying it will cause rent increases.
Contrary to what is suggested, it's not 98%. It may be 98% of the properties. An enormous number of folks in our state, around the state, urban and rural, west and east, live in multifamily housing. And there is no question when they sell these at above $3 million, they're going to pay a higher rate. And that rate will get passed on to the renter. Because this is how it'll work. It'll get passed on to the renter, and the folks that are living paycheck to paycheck will have to pay somewhere between $300 and $600 more per year to stay in their home.
40th District Democratic Senator Liz Lovelet rose in support of the bill, responding to concerns about multifamily unit rent increases.
And while I can appreciate the argument that's been made about the multifamily units, the point is that we are lowering the tax burden on 80% of Washington state. There is a legitimate increase to people who have extremely high home values, but the majority of people in both rural and in most of our rural districts are going to see a reduction in the tax rolls when they sell their homes.
42nd District Republican Senator Doug Erickson also rose in opposition to the bill, indicating the legislation will raise rent for lower income Washingtonians.
So this was what I would call big dumb government, as opposed to small smart government when it comes to legislation. What could be dumber than giving a tax break to build high density housing and then charging additional tax on high density housing when you sell it? And then you're giving tax breaks to people living in houses for $1.4 million, but the person moving into the low income rental unit is going to pay more. I always thought the Democrat Party said that they were against regressive taxes and wanted to help out poor people, but yet we keep seeing taxes tonight, whether it's increased gas taxes and now it's this increased REIT tax, which specifically targets low-income people who live in apartment buildings.
Following floor debate, Senate members voted on the bill.
Mr. President, there are 26 yea, 22 nay, 1 excused.
Having received a constitutional majority and gross substitute Senate Bill 5998 is declared passed, the title of the bill will be the title of the act.
This legislation will go into effect beginning January 1st of 2020.
House Resolution 46 41.
We finish off the year in review 2019 with legislation that garnered bipartisan support from all members of the House. It represented a major goodbye to a legislator who has served the public in his position for decades. On the final day of the 2019 session, the House passed House Resolution 4641 for outgoing House Speaker Frank Chopp, a Democrat from Seattle who is the longest-serving speaker in state history. 2nd District Republican Representative J.T. Wilcox, wearing a mustache, rose in support of the resolution to honor Speaker Chopp.
I think one of the things that I appreciate about the Speaker is something that we have in common. We grew up around people that worked hard, still know how to work, and have an immense amount of reverence for everyone among us who value work, who value families, and also have a place in their heart for those who are less fortunate, maybe those that don't have a community and don't have a family.
29th District Democratic Representative Steve Kirby provided further commentary looking back at Speaker Chopp's time in the legislature.
Speakers come and go. But only one has gone to prison that I know, but they do. They come and go. Sorry. That wasn't part of the script. I don't know what just came to me.
The resolution was unanimously adopted, and then Speaker Chopp spoke.
I'm truly overwhelmed, but this has gone on far too long.
Chopp addressed lawmakers, including 7th District Republican Representative Joel Kretz.
Joel, I dearly love you. It was great to scheme together to get about $5 million for the Omak Stampede, which I told him, whatever you do, don't tell my folks back in the 43rd District that I did that. And by the way, Joel, I was a wolf in a previous life.
Speaker Chopp also honored his family.
Family is so important to all of us, and that's a great thing for this institution. We sort of are a big family. And so if you wouldn't mind honoring my family, and let's hear it for Nancy and Ellie.
Thank you for watching Legislative Year in Review. It has been my pleasure to bring you daily recaps during the legislative session. However, if you want to stay up to date during the interim, be sure to like TVW on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. For TVW, I'm Dave Martinson. Support for Legislative Review provided by
More than 1 million people each day turn on the lights. They may not know that 90% or more of their electricity comes from resources that produce zero carbon emissions. They may not know that the power of the wind and sun have been harnessed to energize their lives. They may not know that every year our energy conservation programs save enough energy to power more than 10,000 homes. But we do. We are Washington's community-owned, not-for-profit public utility districts providing reliable and clean electricity every day, keeping Washington green.
Stand for Children Washington is working to ensure every child graduates from high school prepared for a career or college. We work with parents and teachers to improve student outcomes by data-driven programs that work. Washington communities deserve public schools that make sure every kid has what they need to succeed, including those overlooked because of their skin color, zip code, first language, or disability. Stand for Children believes every student in Washington should graduate from high school. Their future depends on it, and so does ours.
What does the forest mean to you?
Healthy salmon runs.
Cool, clean water.
A good living.
Washington's private forest landowners are committed to the Forests and Fish Law, the toughest of its kind in the nation, bringing science and sustainability to our state's working forests.
This is the future.
See how the law is working for all of us at forestandfish.com.
Want more from TVW? Follow us on Twitter at TVW News and find us on Facebook for exclusive content and more. Another way for you to connect with TVW. TVW thanks the cable television industry. Cable providers across the state carry TVW for free as a public service, enabling Washingtonians to watch their state government in action.
Support for TVW provided by
a commitment to strong communities. That's what PEMCO Insurance is all about. Since 1949, from Linden to Longview, Walla Walla to West Seattle, we put our members first, making sure we give back so we can all move ahead. Whether it's providing a chance for those who might not otherwise have one, or supporting TVW to help improve our corner of the world, PEMCO cares about the same things you do. We believe in TVW's mission and in transparent government, because informed citizens benefit all of us.
TVW, opening state government to the people of Washington, with unedited coverage of the state legislature, the governor's office and the state Supreme Court, state government agencies, campaigns and elections, and public policy events in all corners of Washington. Plus our award-winning produced shows and documentaries that offer in-depth, balanced coverage of political events and policy decisions. TVW, opening government for the people of Washington. TVW, for more than 20 years, bringing you gavel-to-gavel coverage of Washington state government.
The insurance commissioner, I don't know.
The insurance commissioner. I would say mostly people don't know about it. When I first ran in 1992, I did my own on-the-street survey. I asked people, what does the Office of the Insurance Commissioner do? And basically they said, what's the Office of the Insurance Commissioner?
They manage the insurance. Yeah, I actually don't know what the insurance commissioner does at all. Did not know that was a job. So
maybe also negotiating with other insurance companies that are in the state.
That misperception, if there is one, could be that it leans toward the insurance industry, but really the office leans toward the consumer. It is a consumer protection agency amongst all the other things that it does.
Insurance commissioner is in charge of regulating the insurance companies that offer property insurance and health insurance in the state.
Life insurance, health insurance, disability insurance, homeowners insurance, auto insurance, and I always remind people that we also regulate travel insurance and pet insurance.
My guess would be to ensure that insurance companies are treating clients properly.
Basically, the office is a regulatory oversight office. It regulates insurance industries from cradle to grave. The office licenses insurance industries. It approves products that are sold by the insurance industry. It licenses agents and brokers. It approves rates or rate increases. It has a consumer complaint division, and that is the division that is most visible to the public. If a consumer calls because their health insurance claim was not paid, they have some appeal rights with the health insurance company, but it's always good for them to call the 800 number at the Office of the Insurance Commissioner and see if one of those consumer compliance officers can assist them. And let me say this, that when the consumer compliance officers at the Office of the Insurance Commissioner call an insurance company, they sit up, they take notice, because they know that they're hearing from the regulators. The commissioner can shut down an insurance company. It's something that we don't want to do, and I never really had to do, but that's how powerful the office is. And so when you get a call, you pay attention.
Each month, Washington's insurance commissioner announces fines and sometimes even criminal charges against the insurance industry.
So, for example, if an insurance company is breaking the law, The commissioner has a toolbox of tools with which to make sure that the law is obeyed.
We have a graphic that depicts this. The Office of the Insurance Commissioner not only sets insurance rates, but also, as we are saying, investigates fraud. So there is a special investigations unit. There's actually an insurance fraud most wanted list. There are prosecutions, criminal prosecutions, as well as civil penalties or fines. The other option at times are cease and desist orders, where you basically tell somebody to stop operating.
So I'll give you one really interesting example that we were involved in when I was insurance commissioner. The health insurance companies were not paying for people's emergency room treatment.
A potentially life-saving trip to the emergency room could result in exorbitant and unexpected bills, even if you have insurance.
ABC 3340's Cynthia Gould explains why you can be hit with surprise ER bills, plus advice from...
For example, they would say, well, you went out of network, and everybody knows what that means, you know, outside your list of hospitals or doctors. Well, if you have an emergency, how can you go to your network doctor? And so we actually worked with the emergency room physicians in the state of Washington to get people covered, and in fact the law was passed, and so that was a very, very important issue. There's no question that in its wisdom the state of Washington has made this an elective office because the insurance commissioner is more independent and only answerable to the public, and therefore can protect the public. In many, many states in this country, in fact, the majority of states, the insurance commissioner is appointed by the governor and is answerable to the governor. And let me just say that when the insurance companies didn't like something I did related to consumer protection, they would often float a bill to make it an appointed office. I cannot tell you how many times I saw appointed insurance commissioners say to me, gee, that's a great initiative, but I can't do anything about it because my governor won't let me. So it's directly answerable to the public, and I hope it always stays elective.